Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, we have tackled a huge stack of sources today, and honestly, this one's going to save you money, time, and maybe even some fines on that dream Italy trip.
That's the plan.
Our listener is aiming for, that unforgettable 10 to 14-day sprint, hitting the big cultural must-sees and those absolutely stunning coastlines everyone talks about.
Exactly. And look, our mission today is really to go beyond just the pretty pictures. We're taking all these detailed itineraries and boiling them down into a practical, well-informed blueprint.
Right.
We need to figure out exactly how many days for the big three, that's Rome, Florence, Venice, and maybe more importantly, how to handle the travel and logistics for places like Cinque Terre and the Amalfi Coast without, feeling totally overwhelmed.
Or broke.
Or broke, yeah. You're basically getting the actionable plan right here. Okay, so let's start with some ground rules, the non-negotiables. First up, timing. When should you actually plan this trip?
Yeah, that seems pretty crucial.
It is, and the sources are pretty much unanimous.
Yeah.
You really want to aim for the shoulder season.
Okay, what's that mean exactly? April, May.
Yeah, think late spring, so April, May, or early fall, like September, October.
And why is that timing so key? Just avoiding the heat.
Well, yes, partly the heat, but it's also about avoiding the absolute peak crowds and the peak season prices you'll find in July and August. Plus, some sources point out that coastal spots, especially Cinque Terre and Amalfi, can get really quiet, almost shut down in the deep winter months. So you kind of need that sweet spot.
Okay, that makes sense. I was also really struck by how many sources insisted this whole itinerary could be done, like, totally car-free.
Oh, absolutely.
It sounds like they really want you to skip the massive headache of parking, which, let's be honest, is a huge pliff if you're nervous about driving in, dense European cities. Italy's apparently super easy to navigate with just trains, buses, and ferries.
It really is. And speaking of trains, we have to talk about probably the single most expensive mistake tourists make there.
Uh-oh, what's that?
If you buy a paper train ticket, one of the regional ones, usually you must validate it before you get on the train.
Validate. How?
There are these little machines, usually yellow or green, right at the entrance to the platform. You just stick the end of your paper ticket in, it makes a stamping noise, and prints the time and date.
Wait, hold on. What happens if you forget? Like, is it a small fine? A slap on the wrist?
No, not at all. We're talking potentially hundreds of euros per ticket. And the conductors, they really don't care if you're a tourist who didn't know. It's a strictly enforced rule.
Wow. Okay, so validating that little paper ticket is maybe the most important piece of paper you handle all trip. Good tip.
Definitely.
Now, shifting gears a bit, cultural clocks. Get ready to adjust your dinner plans, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're used to eating dinner at, say, 7 p.m., you might find restaurants pretty empty. Dinner in Italy starts late, often like 9:000, even 10:000 p.m. sometimes.
Good to know. And what about places to stay? Any consensus?
Yeah, there was a strong feeling towards recommending locally run B&Bs over big international hotels. You tend to get a more charming, sort of authentic feel, and often a really great breakfast included. And one last logistical thing. Carry some cash. Always have some euros on you.
For what specifically?
Small shops, little cafes, and definitely public restrooms, they often have a small fee, like 50 cents or €1, to get in. And be warned, in really small towns like some villages in Cinque Terre, the ATMs can actually run out of cash sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep a little stash handy.
All right, let's dive into the big cities, starting with Rome. Sounds like 3 days is kind of the minimum, and it's all about booking ahead and smart timing.
Correct. Your absolute must-dos are the Colosseum and the Roman Forum right next door. For the Colosseum, you have to book tickets online well in advance, especially if you want those underground tours, the ones where the gladiators and animals were kept. Those sell out super fast.
Okay, noted. And the Forum.
Right next door. Plan maybe 30, 45 minutes. Definitely get an audio guide to make sense of the ruins.
And then there's the Vatican, which is technically its own country inside Rome.
Exactly. You'll want to see St. Peter's Basilica, but remember the dress code is very strict. Shoulders and knees covered for everyone. And just logistically, the Vatican museums are usually closed on Sundays, most Sundays anyway.
Good heads up. What about quicker stops?
Definitely see the Pantheon. You can just pop in and toss a coin in the Trevi Fountain. But just, brace yourself for crowds. Big crowds.
I bet. Any tips for escaping them?
Yeah, a great tip from the sources is to see some of the big monuments at night. They're beautifully lit, way fewer people. And also, explore the Trastevere neighborhood. It's described as having this kind of cool, slightly hipster vibe. Still feels a bit more local, less overrun than right near the main sites.
Oh, I think I saw that mentioned for food, too.
Yes. Actually, a highly recommended first night activity is booking a food tour. specifically in Trastevere. It does two things. Gives you some history, but more importantly, you get fantastic local recommendations for where to eat for the rest of your stay. Helps you avoid the tourist traps.
Smart. And Roman food must-tries.
Oh yeah, you absolutely have to try spaghetti alla carbonara and cacio e pepe. Classic Roman pastas.
Okay, moving north. Florence, heart of the Renaissance. 2 or 3 days here, focused on art and shopping.
Pretty much. Art and craftsmanship.
Okay.
For the iconic views, you've got a couple of climbing options. The Duomo's cupola, that's the big dome, or Giotto's Campanile, the bell tower next to it.
Right, but you need tickets in advance for those climbs, don't you? Like timed slots.
Yes, absolutely. You must have a pre-booked time slot. If climbing isn't your thing or you just want the killer photo op, the advice is unanimous. Head across the river to Piazzale Michelangelo, especially around sunset. It's consistently called the best panoramic view of Florence, period.
Nice. Okay, art time. The big ones.
Two non-negotiables that need advance booking. Michelangelo's David at the Galleria dell'Accademia and Botticelli's Birth of Venus at the Uffizi Gallery. If you don't book ahead, you pay the FOMA tax.
The FOMA tax? What on earth is that?
The fear of missing art tax. It basically means you pay with your precious vacation time standing in massive standby lines for hours just because you didn't commit and book online.
Huh. Okay, avoid the FOMA tax. Got it. Good advice.
Definitely book ahead.
Beyond the art, Florence is famous for leather, right? Tuscan leather.
It is, but you have to be really careful here. The sources warn that while there's amazing quality Tuscan craft, the markets can also be full of cheap, imported fakes. So do your homework if you're buying leather.
Okay. And any hidden gems in Florence?
There's this amazing place called the Officina Profumo Farmaceutica di Santa Maria Novella. It's basically an 800-year-old pharmacy, still making perfumes and skincare. Apparently, the inside looks almost like a church or a museum. Really unique.
Wow. Okay. On to Venice. Sometimes it gets called overrated because of the crowds.
Yeah, you hear that sometimes, but honestly, the consensus in our sources is that it's absolutely unreal and totally worth navigating the crowds. It's just unique.
What are the absolute must-sees?
Piazza San Marco, obviously, with the Basilica and the Doge's Palace, the Rialto Bridge. And a favorite view, mentioned often, is from the Accademia Bridge, looking down the Grand Canal.
And the gondola ride. Touristy, but gotta do it.
If you want to, yeah, just know the price is officially fixed and regulated. It should be €80 cash daytime for the whole gondola, max 6 people. Don't let anyone charge you more.
Good tip. How about getting around? Just walk.
Walking is great, but
Sure.
you'll probably want to use the Vaporetto, which is the water bus system. Get a pass. And if you happen to be 29 or under, look for the Rolling Venice Pass. It gives you decent discounts on transport and some attractions.
Okay, now, you mentioned a crucial Venice food constraint.
Yes. This one surprises a lot of people. Venice is generally not the place to go expecting amazing, authentic, wood-fired, Neapolitan-style pizza.
Wait, really? No good pizza in Italy? How is that possible?
It sounds crazy, right?
Babe.
But because of the city's structure, lots of old wooden buildings, there's a high fire risk. So traditional wood-burning pizza ovens are banned in most of historical Venice.
Ah, okay, that makes sense, tragically. So what should you eat in Venice?
Focus on regional specialties. Try risotto al nero di seppia, that's squid ink risotto, it's fantastic. Or cicchetti, which are like Venetian to tapas. And of course, have a Bellini cocktail, the peach and prosecco drink. It was invented right there at Harry's Bar.
All right, we've got the big 3 cities covered. That's the core, yeah. But the sources really emphasize experiencing the coast, too. Let's talk Cinque Terre first. The 5 lands up in Liguria. Sounds like hiking is the main event.
It really is. Cinque Terre is visually spectacular, those colorful villages clinging to the cliffs. But yeah, the main activity is hiking the trails between the 5 towns. And you need to be prepared. It's often quite demanding physically, lots of ups and downs, steep sections. It's not just a gentle coastal path.
And you need to check if the trails are even open.
Absolutely crucial. Landslides happen. The most famous path, the Via dell'Amor between Rio Maggiore and Manarola, was actually closed for something like 12 years after a rockfall. So always check the park's official website for current trail status.
Okay. And getting around between towns if you're not hiking.
You definitely need to buy the Cinque Terre card. There are different versions, but you'll want the one that includes both access to the hiking trails and unlimited train travel on the local line that connects all 5 towns, plus La Spezia and Levanto. You'll use that train constantly.
Makes sense. Any advice on which town to stay in?
Well, Cornelia was mentioned as maybe being a little less crowded, partly because it's the only one not directly on the water. It's high up on a cliff. The advice was generally to avoid staying in Vernazza, as it can get completely swamped, especially when cruise ship day trippers arrive.
Okay. And food-wise, it's Liguria, so.
Pesto. So, yes, this is the birthplace of pesto. Eat it on everything. And here's a really specific, cool foodie find from the sources. Track down Alberto Gelateria in Corniglia and try their basil gelato, served with a drizzle of olive oil.
Whoa, basil ice cream with olive oil. That sounds interesting.
Apparently, it's amazing. And another tip. Consider doing a sunset boat tour. It costs maybe $80 or so per person for a couple of hours, but you get incredible views of the villages from the water that you just can't get from land.
Nice. Okay, let's head south to the Amalfi Coast. Stunningly beautiful, but sounds like a bit of a logistical challenge.
That's the reputation, yeah. Gorgeous, but can be very crowded and difficult, especially driving and parking. So for a stay of maybe 3 to 5 days in that region, the strong recommendation was actually not to stay in Positano or Amalfi themselves, but to use Sorrento or even nearby Vico Equince as your base camp.
Why Sorrento?
It's just much more convenient for transport. It's on the Circumvesuviana train line from Naples. It has frequent ferries to Capri and along the coast, and buses. It makes day trips much easier than being stuck in the middle of the Amalfi Drive traffic.
Okay, that makes sense. And day trips from Sorrento. Pompeii.
Yes, perfect example. If you're coming down from Rome or Naples towards Sorrento, you can easily stop off and visit Pompeii en route. Just budget a good 2 or 3 hours for the ruins, and definitely get a guide or a really good audio guide. Otherwise, it can feel a bit like, just a lot of old rocks. You need the context.
Right. And exploring the coast itself. Positano, Amalfi town.
From Sorrento, the best way is often by ferry or a boat tour. You get the amazing views from the water without dealing with the crazy narrow roads and parking nightmares.
What about the island of Capri? Is it worth the hype?
Capri is beautiful, definitely has that celebrity glamour. But the sources had a great tip to avoid the biggest time sink and potential disappointment, which is the Blue Grotto. It takes ages, often has long queues, and can be closed due to tides.
So skip the Blue Grotto. What's the alternative for great views?
Head straight for the Gardens of Augustus. The entry fee is tiny, like £2.50, and from there you get that absolutely iconic, postcard-perfect view over the Faraglione rock formations. Best value view on the island, apparently.
Awesome tip. And food down here. We talked about no pizza in Venice.
This is where the pizza is. Naples, the birthplace of pizza, is right nearby. So here you get the real deal. Simple ingredients, high-heat wood-fired ovens. Also, this Campania region is famous for mozzarella di bufala, amazing buffalo mozzarella, and of course, limoncello liqueur, and dishes like pasta al limone. Lots of lemon flavor here.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together into a kind of blueprint. A tight 10-day trip could realistically cover Rome, Florence, and Cinque Terre, right?
Yeah, that seems very doable with efficient train travel.
And if you've got the full 14 days, that basically unlocks adding either the Amalfi Coast and Capri region down south or heading north from Florence to include Venice, maybe even a quick stop in Milan, depending on flights.
Exactly. That extra time gives you one more major region. And remember, you can totally reverse the order depending on flight deals. Fly into Venice and work your way south, or fly into Rome and head north. It's flexible.
So looking back at all these sources, what's the big takeaway, the main challenge for someone planning this?
I think the fundamental challenge is balancing those absolute must-see iconic sites, the Colosseum, David, Venice's canals, with finding more, authentic, maybe quieter experiences.
How do you do that?
Well, a few key things came up repeatedly. One, reservations are crucial in high season for major sites and even some popular restaurants, but don't stress too much about food. Italy generally has great value, delicious food almost everywhere if you just step slightly off the main tourist drag.
Okay.
2, really consider seeking out those traditional, locally run B&Bs instead of big chain hotels for a more personal experience.
Yeah.
And 3, be aware of the difference between genuine regional crafts like the Tuscan leather we talked about or authentic Ligurian pesto versus the cheaper, often imported souvenirs you'll see in tourist markets. Know what you're looking for.
That makes sense. So we've covered a ton here, haven't we? From the surprising importance of validating a train ticket to why you shouldn't expect great pizza in Venice.
Yeah.
As you, the listener, finalize your plans, maybe here's something to think about. We highlighted finding value in those specific, maybe less obvious things, that 2050 garden view in Capri, hunting down basil ice cream in Cinque Terre, taking that food tour in Trastevere on night 1. How do you personally balance the desire to tick off the big checklist items, see the Colosseum, see David, climb the Duomo, with finding space for those potentially simpler, maybe hidden moments of discovery, the ones that might actually end up being the most memorable parts of your trip?
That's a great question. It's about finding your perfect mix, isn't it?
Exactly. That's the balance you get to strike.
So use this blueprint as a starting point. Definitely research those train tickets early. Try and lock them in to save some money. And yeah, get ready for what sounds like a pretty amazing, efficient, and unforgettable Italian adventure.
Enjoy the planning, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.